The morning sun painted the wheat fields gold as Jake Morrison climbed into his harvester. The machine hummed to life with a deep, satisfied growl that echoed across the peaceful valley. Jake had been working these fields for 3 years now, and every morning still felt like a gift. No explosions, no screaming, no blood. Just the simple rhythm of farming on New Eden Colony. He guided the massive harvester through the wheat, watching the grain pour into the collection bins. The machine was impressive, even by farming standards. Jake had insisted on the best equipment. When he arrived on Kepler 44 to B, the other colonists thought he was crazy for spending so much on a harvester. But Jake knew good machinery when he saw it. This beast could cut through anything. The radio crackled to life on his dashboard. "Jake, you copy?" Came the voice of Lisa Campbell, the colony administrator. "Yeah, Lisa. What's up? Just checking harvest progress?" "Earth wants our crop reports." By end of week, Jake chuckled. "Tell Earth we're doing just fine. Best harvest we've had yet. We'll do. Don't work too hard out there." Jake smiled as he switched off the radio. Lisa was good people. She ran the colony with quiet efficiency. Never asking too many questions about anyone's past. That was the unspoken rule on New Eden. Everyone came here for a fresh start. Everyone respected that. The colony stretched out below him as Jake worked the higher fields. 200 people called this place home, scattered across the valley. In simple prefab houses, there was the main settlement with the community center, medical clinic, and supply depot. Beyond that, individual farms dotted the landscape where families grew everything from corn to vegetables to raising livestock. It looked exactly like what it was supposed to be. Quiet farming community on the edge of human space. Pete Rodriguez waved from his cattle ranch as Jake's harvester passed nearby. Pete was a good neighbor, always ready to help with difficult animals or equipment problems. The man had a way with both. Jake had seen Pete calm a charging bull with nothing but steady nerves and perfect timing. Some people just had that kind of cool under pressure. Amy Watson was working in her vegetable gardens, her solar panels glinting in the morning light. She grew the best tomatoes on the planet, but Jake suspected Amy could grow anything she set her mind to. The woman understood systems in a way that impressed even Jake. Her irrigation setup was a work of art, precise and efficient. Sam Miller's chicken farm lay further north, where the old man tended his flocks with methodical care. Sam treated everything like a math problem, calculating feed ratios and egg production with scientific precision. Jake respected that approach. Details mattered, whether you were farming or doing anything else. The colonists had found their rhythm. Over the past few years, they worked hard, helped each other, and kept to themselves. Most were older folks looking for peace after difficult lives back on Earth or the inner colonies. Some were young families wanting to build something clean and simple. A few were specialists who just wanted to use their skills for growing things instead of destroying them. Jake finished his section and headed back toward the equipment barn. The harvester handled beautifully, responsive to every command. He had made some modifications to the engine and hydraulics over the years, small improvements that made the machine more reliable. Jake had always been good with machines, understanding how they worked and how to make them work better. As he parked the harvester, Jake noticed something odd in the sky. A brief glint, like sunlight reflecting off metal. He paused, shading his eyes with his hand. Nothing there now. It's probably just a satellite or a piece of space debris. Happens sometimes this far out. Still, Jake made a mental note to mention it to Lisa. She liked to keep track of anything unusual. Colony administrators had to worry about things like that. The community center was busy when Jake arrived for lunch. The daily meal was a tradition on New Eden, a chance for neighbors to catch up and share news. Today's conversation centered around the upcoming Harvest Festival and planning for winter preparations. "Jake, how are those new seed varieties working?" "Out," asked Dr. Helen Barnes, the colony's medical officer. She had arrived last year and fit right in, tending both people and plants with equal care. "Better than expected," Jake replied, settling into his usual seat. "Yield is up 20% from last year. That's wonderful news. Earth will be pleased." Jake nodded, though he cared less about pleasing Earth than about feeding his neighbors. The colony was nearly self-sufficient now, which had always been the goal. Independence meant security, and security meant peace. Lisa joined their table. Tablet in hand, as always, she managed the colony's communications with Earth, tracking supply shipments and administrative requirements. Got word from the supply ship? They'll be here next month with the equipment we ordered. The new tractors? Asked Pete, looking up from his meal. Those and the mining equipment Sam requested for expanding the well system? Sam Miller nodded approvingly. Water tables dropping slightly. Need to go deeper to maintain reliable supply. Listened to the conversation with half his attention. The other half was thinking about that glint in the sky. Something about it bothered him, though he couldn't say exactly what. Just a feeling, the kind that used to keep him alive in his younger. Days after lunch, Jake walked the perimeter of his property, checking fence lines and equipment. Everything looked normal, but that nagging feeling persisted. He found himself scanning the sky more than usual, looking for anything out of place. The afternoon passed quietly. Jake worked on maintenance tasks, cleaning his tools and checking the harvester's systems. The machine was in perfect condition, ready for whatever came next. He had learned long ago that keeping equipment in top shape was the difference between success and failure. Evening brought the usual sounds of a farming community winding down. Children playing in the settlement center, adults finishing their daily tasks, the distant lowing of cattle from Pete's ranch. Normal sounds, peaceful sounds. But as Jake settled into his chair on the front porch, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky, he couldn't shake the feeling that their peaceful days were numbered. Something was coming to New Eden Colony. He could feel it in his bones, the same instinct that had served him well in his previous life. Jake Morrison had come to New Eden, seeking peace. But he had never forgotten how to prepare for war. 3 days after Jake spotted the glint in the sky, the colony held its monthly community meeting in the main hall. Lisa Campbell stood at the front with her usual stack of reports and updates. The colonists filled the simple wooden chairs there. Faces relaxed and content after another successful week of farming. Supply ship arrives in 23 days, Lisa announced, reading from her tablet. Medical supplies, equipment parts, and the new atmospheric processors Sam requested. Sam Miller nodded from his seat in the front row.
Could need those processors to expand the greenhouse complex before winter?
Jake sat in his usual spot near the back, still bothered by that feeling of unease. He watched his neighbors discuss crop rotations and equipment maintenance, noting how they moved and spoke. These people had skills beyond farming, though most hid it well. When Pete Rodriguez mentioned fixing a broken fence post, Jake caught the way Pete described the problem. Military precision in the details, exact measurements, specific tools needed, estimated time to completion. It's not the way most ranchers talked about fence repairs. Anyone else having trouble with the irrigation timers? Asked Amy Watson from her seat near the middle. Mine keep defaulting to the wrong sequence. Several hands went up around the room. Amy frowned and pulled out a small device from her pocket. I can reprogram them tonight. Should only take an hour to fix the whole system. Jake recognized the device. Military-grade programming unit. Way more advanced than anything a vegetable farmer should own. Amy handled it with the smooth confidence of someone who had used similar tools many times before. Dr. Helen. Barnes raised her hand. I want to remind everyone about the quarterly health checks next week. Standard procedure, nothing to worry about.
Not the way.
She said standard procedure made Jake's eyebrows rise slightly. Helen had the tone of someone used to giving briefings, not the casual manner of a small-town doctor. Her posture was too straight, her awareness too sharp as she scanned the room while speaking. After the meeting ended, Jake lingered as people filed out. He watched Sam Miller discussing water table measurements with Lisa, using terms that sounded more like geological survey work than simple well drilling. Pete Rodriguez mentioned checking his perimeter fences. With unusual emphasis on the word perimeter, Jake decided to take a walk through the settlement before heading home. The evening air was cool and pleasant, filled with the normal sounds of a farming community settling down for the night. But Jake found himself walking like he used to during his old job, noting sight lines and defensive positions without thinking about it. He stopped by Amy Watson's farm and found her working on the irrigation controls by lamplight. The programming device was connected to a complex display that showed the entire colony's water system in real time. "Evening, Amy? Working late?" Amy looked up, not startled, despite Jake approaching quietly. "Good reflexes." "Hi, Jake. Just updating the irrigation protocols. Should have everything running smoother by tomorrow." Jake studied the display over her shoulder. The system map showed much more detail than any farming operation needed. Pressure, sensors, flow monitors, and what looked like emergency shutoff valves at strategic locations throughout the settlement. "Impressive setup," Jake said carefully. "I like systems that work properly," Amy replied, saving her changes and closing the programming interface. "Can't grow good vegetables with unreliable water?" Jake nodded and continued his walk. Near the medical clinic, he spotted Dr. Helen Barnes through the window, working at her desk with focused intensity. She wasn't reviewing patient files. The documents spread across her workspace looked like technical manuals or specifications for equipment that had nothing to do with medicine. At Pete Rodriguez's ranch, Jake noticed the man checking his cattle with a handheld scanner that seemed too advanced for simple livestock management. Pete moved through the herd with practiced efficiency, but his attention kept drifting to the horizon, like someone watching for threats. The walk brought Jake to Sam Miller's chicken farm, where the old man was adjusting some kind of monitoring equipment near his coops. The devices looked like weather sensors, but Jake recognized them as something else entirely. Communication relays, designed to maintain contact across long distances, even in difficult conditions. Jake returned home with his suspicions confirmed. These weren't ordinary farmers who had stumbled into agricultural work. They were professionals who had chosen farming as their cover, just like he had. The next morning brought news that changed everything. Lisa Campbell's voice crackled over the colony's communication system, reaching every home and workplace simultaneously. "Attention all residents. We've received reports of increased ship traffic in nearby systems. Probably merchant vessels, but I want everyone to stay alert for anything unusual in our skies." Jake was checking his harvester's fuel levels when the announcement came. He straightened slowly, recognizing the careful way Lisa had delivered the information. She was preparing the colony for something without causing panic. Over the following days, subtle changes appeared throughout New Eden. Equipment that had been stored in barns and sheds started appearing in new locations. Sam Miller's chicken coops sprouted additional antenna arrays. Amy Watson's vegetable gardens gained new sensors and monitoring devices. Pete Rodriguez began writing his property boundaries more frequently. Always carrying that advanced scanner, Dr. Helen Barnes started conducting her quarterly health checks with unusual thoroughness, asking questions about reaction times and stress, responses that seemed odd for routine medical exams. She also began keeping longer hours at the clinic, working on projects that required the blinds to be drawn. Jake made his own preparations. He serviced his harvester with extra care, checking systems that had nothing to do with cutting grain. He tested hydraulic responses, fuel flow rates, and mechanical tolerances that mattered for applications far beyond farming. During lunch at the community center, conversations had shifted subtly. People discussed weather patterns with the precision of tactical planners. Equipment maintenance became detailed technical briefings. Even the children seemed more alert, though they continued playing their games with apparent innocence. Lisa Campbell spent increasing amounts of time in the communications center, monitoring channels that normal colony administrators shouldn't know existed. She moved with the quiet authority of someone used to command situations, making decisions that affected everyone while keeping the reasons private. Jake realized that New Eden Colony had been designed exactly for this moment. Every building placement, every piece of equipment, every resident had been chosen with purposes beyond simple farming. They were all here for the same reason, even if none of them spoke about it directly. The peaceful farming community was ready to become something else entirely. On the 5th night after Lisa's announcement, Jake sat on his porch watching the stars. Somewhere up there, ships were moving toward New Eden with intentions that weren't friendly. But they would find more than helpless farmers when they arrived. Jake Morrison smiled grimly and went inside to check his equipment. One more time. The ships appeared at dawn on a Tuesday morning, dropping out of faster-than-light travel like dark thunderclouds against the pale sky. Jake Morrison was feeding his chickens when the first shadow passed overhead, followed by dozens more. Alien vessels were huge, their hulls gleaming with strange metals that hurt to look at directly. Jake dropped the feed bucket and ran for his house. His hands moved automatically to the emergency communication device hidden behind his kitchen cabinet. The red button felt cold under his finger as he pressed it 3 times, paused, then pressed it twice more. The signal would reach every home. In the colony within seconds, all across New Eden, similar alarms were sounding. The peaceful farming community had just received its wake-up call. The largest alien ship positioned itself directly above the main settlement, casting an enormous shadow over the community center and surrounding homes. Smaller vessels spread out across the valley, taking positions that would allow them to control all major roads and farming areas. Lisa Campbell's voice came over the colony communication system, but now she sounded different. Gone was the casual tone of a rural administrator. Her words carried the sharp authority of someone used to command situations. So all residents, this is not a drill. Unknown vessels have entered our airspace. Move to your assigned positions immediately. Repeat, move to your assigned positions now. Jake was already moving. He ran to his equipment barn and began the startup sequence for his harvester, but not to cut grain. Hidden panels slid open along the machine's sides, revealing modifications that had nothing to do with farming. The innocent-looking agricultural equipment transformed into something far more dangerous. Across the valley, similar transformations were taking place. Amy Watson's Irrigation Control Center revealed itself as a sophisticated command post, with displays showing the entire colony from dozens of hidden cameras. Sam Miller's chicken coops opened to expose communication arrays that could reach ships anywhere in the system. Pete Rodriguez's cattle scanner became a military-grade targeting system as he took position in his reinforced barn. The alien ships began broadcasting on all frequencies. The voice that emerged from every radio and communication device in the UA colony was harsh and mechanical, speaking heavily accented English. Humans of this world, you will surrender immediately. Am Admiral Krathvin of the Zephyrian Empire. Your pathetic farming colony is now under our control. Resist, and you will be destroyed. Jake listened to the broadcast while completing his harvester's combat configuration. It heard similar threats before in places far from New Eden. Bullies were the same everywhere. Whether they had 2 legs or tentacles, Lisa Campbell responded over the colony's main communication channel, her voice now carrying just the right amount of fear and confusion to sound like a terrified administrator. This is Lisa Campbell, colony administrator for New Eden. We're just farmers here. We don't have any weapons or military equipment. Please don't hurt anyone. Jake smiled grimly as he listened to Lisa's performance. She sounded exactly like a frightened civilian who had never seen combat. The aliens would believe they faced helpless farmers, which was exactly what Lisa wanted them to think. More alien ships descended from the main fleet, heading for landing zones around the settlement. Jake counted at least 30 vessels each, one large enough to carry significant ground forces. The aliens were taking no chances, bringing overwhelming force to crush what they believed was a defenseless farming community. Admiral Krathvin's voice returned to the airwaves. You have 1 hour to gather all humans in your central area for processing. Any who resist will be eliminated. We are not interested in your crops, only in your world as a base for further operations. The alien landing craft touched down in the fields surrounding New Eden, their engines scorching the carefully tended crops. Ramps lowered, and Zephyrian soldiers poured out, their blue-scaled skin gleaming under advanced combat armor. They carried energy weapons and moved with the confidence of troops who expected easy victory. Jake watched the enemy deployment through his harvester's sensor array. The aliens were positioning themselves to surround the main settlement, but they were making basic tactical errors. They assumed the humans would cluster together in terror, making them easy to control and eliminate. The Zephyrians had no idea they were walking into a carefully prepared killing field. Dr. Helen Barnes contacted all positions from her medical clinic, which had revealed itself as a tactical coordination center. All teams, enemy ground forces are deployed. Count approximately 400 hostiles in 12 landing groups. They're moving to surround the settlement as expected. Jake checked his harvester's weapon systems one final time. Everything showed green on his displays. The machine that had peacefully cut grain for 3 years was now ready to cut through something very different. Pete Rodriguez's voice came through the tactical channel. I have clear sight lines on 3 landing groups from my position. Targets are bunched together, moving predictably, waiting for orders, Amy Watson reported next. Irrigation system is armed and ready. All underground charges are in position. I can take out their landing craft on command. Sam Miller's voice was calm and methodical as always. Communication jamming equipment is active. The aliens can't call for help from their fleet. We own the battlefield communications now. Jake realized that New Eden Colony had been planned for exactly this scenario. Every piece of equipment, every building, every resident had been positioned to create the perfect trap for an invading force. The aliens thought they were conquering helpless farmers, but they had actually landed in the middle of humanity's most sophisticated military installation. Lisa. Campbell's voice returned to the alien communication channel, still maintaining her terrified administrator act. Admiral Crathbin, we're gathering everyone as you requested. Please give us more time. We have elderly and children who move slowly. The alien admiral's response crackled with impatience. You have 30 minutes, not 1 hour. Move faster, or we will begin eliminating stragglers. Jake could hear the arrogance in the alien commander's voice. Admiral Crathbin was so confident of easy victory that he wasn't bothering with proper caution. The Zephyrians had made their first and last mistake. Lisa's voice came over the tactical channel. Dropping all pretense of fear, her tone was now pure military command authority. All teams prepare for combat operations. We go active in 60 seconds. Make every shot count. These aliens picked the wrong farmers to threaten. Jake Morrison gripped his harvester's controls and smiled. After 3 years of peaceful farming, it was time to harvest something else entirely. Lisa Campbell looked at her chronometer and spoke into her tactical headset. The time was exactly 14:23 local time when she gave the signal that would change everything. All teams, this is harvest time. Execute now. Jake Morrison pressed the final activation button on his harvester's control panel. The machine that had peacefully cut wheat for 3 years revealed its true nature as hidden armor plating slid into place and weapon systems came online. The harvester's grain-cutting blades retracted, placed by rotating artillery cannons that emerged from concealed compartments. The transformation took less than 10 seconds. What had been farming equipment became a mobile weapons platform, capable of devastating anything in its path. Jake's targeting system locked onto the nearest group of Zephyrian soldiers. They were standing in the open, completely unprepared for resistance from what they believed were helpless farmers. The aliens had made their formations, assuming they faced civilians, not military opposition. The first artillery shell left Jake's harvester at 14:24, exactly 1 minute after Lisa's signal. The explosive round struck the center of the alien formation, sending blue-scaled bodies flying in all directions. The Zephyrians who survived the initial blast scrambled for cover that didn't exist in the open farmland. Jake's harvester moved forward, its massive treads crushing alien equipment, while the rotating cannons poured destruction into the enemy ranks. The machine's armor deflected the aliens' energy weapon fire easily. The Zephyrians had brought weapons designed to terrorize civilians, not to fight against military-grade defenses. Across the valley, similar scenes of destruction were unfolding. Pete Rodriguez had positioned himself in his reinforced barn with a clear view of 3 alien landing zones. His cattle scanner had become a precision targeting system that identified enemy officers in priority targets with deadly accuracy. Pete's first shot came at 14:25, taking out a Zephyrian commander who was trying to reorganize his scattered troops. The alien's head exploded in a spray of blue blood, sending his soldiers diving for cover. Pete's second shot eliminated the communications officer, cutting the ground forces off from their command structure. The former Marine sniper worked with mechanical precision, selecting targets that would cause maximum disruption to enemy operations. Each shot dropped a key alien, creating chaos in their ranks as lower-ranking soldiers found themselves without leadership or coordination. Amy. Watson activated her irrigation system at 1426, but instead of water, the underground pipes delivered something far more destructive. Hidden charges that had been placed throughout the alien landing zones detonated simultaneously, creating massive craters where the enemy landing craft had been parked. The explosions destroyed 12 alien transport ships in a matter of seconds, trapping the ground forces on the planet's surface with no way to retreat. The carefully planned irrigation system had become a network of buried mines that eliminated the aliens' escape route. Amy's command center displayed the results of her attack in real time. Every alien landing craft was either destroyed or severely damaged. The invaders were now stranded on New Eden with no way to call for reinforcement or evacuation. Sam Miller's communication equipment jammed all alien frequencies while broadcasting fake orders that sent enemy units marching into prepared kill zones. The old artillery commander understood how to use information warfare as effectively as physical weapons. At 1427, Sam activated the colony's hidden defensive systems. What had appeared to be grain silos revealed themselves as missile launch platforms, their tops sliding open to expose advanced projectile weapons. The missiles streaked toward the alien fleet in orbit, their warheads designed to penetrate advanced starship armor. Dr. Helen Barnes coordinated the entire battle from her medical clinic, which had transformed into a sophisticated command center. Her displays showed the positions of every alien unit, every colonist, and every weapon system across the battlefield. She directed the colonists' attacks with the precision of an experienced military commander. Jake, enemy reinforcements moving toward your position from the north. Pete, I need suppression fire on grid 77 Alpha. Me, prepare to activate secondary charges on the eastern landing zone. The colonists moved like a perfectly coordinated military unit, each one knowing exactly what to do and when to do it. Their years of peaceful farming had been careful preparation for this exact moment. At 1428, the first of Sam's missiles reached the alien fleet in orbit. The massive explosions lit up the sky as Zephyrian warships disintegrated under the impact. Of weapons they had never expected to face from a farming colony, Admiral Krathvin's flagship shuddered under direct hits from projectiles that shouldn't have existed on this backwater world. The alien admiral's voice crackled over the communication channels, no longer arrogant, but filled with panic and confusion. Ground forces report status immediately. What is happening down there? But there were no ground forces left to respond. Pete Rodriguez had systematically eliminated every alien officer, while Jake's harvester had carved through their troops, like a scythe through wheat. Amy's explosive network had destroyed their equipment and vehicles, leaving the survivors scattered and helpless in the open farmland. More missiles launched from the hidden silos, turning the sky into a light show of destruction. The Zephyrian fleet, which had arrived expecting easy conquest, found itself under attack from weapons that rivaled their own military technology. Ship after ship exploded in brilliant flashes that could be seen from the planet's surface. At 1429, Jake's harvester reached the main alien command post. The Zephyrian officers inside their portable headquarters looked up in terror as the massive farming machines smashed through their defensive barriers. The aliens had never imagined that agricultural equipment could be turned into an instrument of war. Jake's cannons reduced the command post to smoking rubble in seconds. The few aliens who tried to flee found themselves in Pete Rodriguez's rifle sights, their escape attempts ending in precise headshots that dropped them before they could take 3 steps. Amy? Watson's voice came over the tactical channel with a damage report that sounded more like a victory celebration. All enemy landing craft destroyed. All enemy ground positions eliminated. No alien survivors detected in the combat zone. At 1430, Sam Miller's final wave of missiles reached the alien fleet. The remaining Zephyrian ships that hadn't been destroyed were now fleeing at maximum speed, their admiral's voice screaming retreat orders over every available frequency. All ships, withdraw immediately. Pete, all ships withdraw from this system. We are under attack by unknown military forces. Dr. Helen Barnes checked her chronometer and made the final entry in her tactical log. The time was 14:32, exactly 9 minutes after Lisa Campbell had given the order to begin the counterattack. The invasion of New Eden Colony was over. The Zephyrian Empire had sent 847 warships to conquer what they believed was a defenseless farming community. They were retreating with less than half their fleet, leaving behind the scattered remains of 400 ground troops who had learned too late that human farmers could be deadlier than any professional soldiers. Jake Morrison turned off his harvester's weapon systems and began the process of transforming it back into farming equipment. Tomorrow, he would return to cutting wheat. But today, he had harvested something much more satisfying. The smoke was still rising from the destroyed alien landing craft when Jake Morrison climbed down from his harvester. The machine was already transforming back into farming equipment, its weapon systems retracting into hidden compartments. Within minutes, it would look like an ordinary agricultural vehicle again, though the scorch marks on its armor told a different story. Jake walked across the battlefield that had been peaceful farmland just 10 minutes earlier. Scattered pieces of alien equipment lay scattered among the wheat stalks, along with the bodies of Zephyrian soldiers who had thought they were conquering helpless farmers. The blue-scaled aliens lay motionless in the soil they had intended to claim for their empire. Pete Rodriguez emerged from his barn, carrying his rifle with practiced ease. The former Marine sniper looked satisfied as he surveyed the results of his work. Every shot had found its target, eliminating alien officers with the precision that had made him legendary in his younger days. "Clean sweep," Pete called out too. Jake, as they met near the destroyed alien command post, took out 37 targets in 9 minutes. It's not bad for an old cattle rancher. Jake nodded, kicking a piece of alien communication equipment with his boot. "Your cattle are going to have some interesting new decorations in their pasture." Amy Watson jogged over from her irrigation control center, her face flushed with excitement and satisfaction. Her vegetable gardens had hidden one of the most sophisticated weapons networks ever deployed, turning innocent farming infrastructure into a devastating explosive system. "All charges detonated successfully," Amy reported. "Every alien landing craft is completely destroyed. You won't be calling for pickup anytime soon." The 3 colonists stood together, looking at the destruction they had caused in less than 10 minutes. Around them, other residents were emerging from their positions, checking equipment and confirming that all threats had been eliminated. Dr. Helen Barnes approached the group, carrying a tablet that displayed detailed battle statistics. Her medical clinic had served as the tactical command center, coordinating the entire defensive operation with military precision. "Final count shows 0 alien survivors in our operational area," Helen announced. "The fleet in orbit has retreated beyond scanner range. We have 17 wounded Zephyrians who surrendered after their command structure was eliminated." Jake raised an eyebrow. 17 surrendered. "They threw down their weapons when they realized resistance was hopeless," Helen explained. "Standard military protocol is to accept surrender when tactical advantage is overwhelming." Sam Miller walked over from his missile launch sites, moving with the steady pace of someone who had just completed a successful artillery mission. His grain silos were already concealing their weapon systems again, preparing to return to their innocent agricultural appearance. "Orbital bombardment capability is secured," Sam reported in his methodical way. 47 enemy capital ships destroyed, estimated 300 smaller vessels eliminated. Remaining fleet units are fleeing at maximum velocity. Lisa Campbell's voice came over the colony communication system, but now she sounded nothing like the frightened administrator who had pleaded with the aliens hours earlier. Her tone carried the crisp authority of someone used to command situations. "All residents, threat level is now minimal. Begin cleanup and evidence collection procedures. Medical team, attend to any injuries among our people first, then treat alien prisoners according to standard protocols." Jake and his fellow colonists began the process of returning New Eden to its peaceful appearance. Hidden weapon systems retracted into concealment, Tactical displays shut down, and farming equipment resumed its innocent agricultural configuration. Within an hour, most evidence of the battle would be hidden from casual observation. But first, Lisa had one more communication to make. She walked to the main communication center and activated a transmission system that had been hidden beneath. The colony's normal equipment, the device connected directly to Terran Command, bypassing normal colonial administration channels. Terran Command, this is Sunflower Base. Lisa spoke into the secure transmitter. Package delivered successfully. Threat neutralized in 9 minutes, 14 seconds. Requesting immediate pickup for prisoners and cleanup assistance. The response came immediately from a voice that carried the authority of high military command. Sunflower Base. This is General Morrison. Excellent work. Cleanup team will arrive within 6 hours. Prepare full mission report for immediate transmission. Looked up sharply when he heard the name. General Morrison was his older brother, the man who had recruited him for this assignment 3 years ago. The family connection made sense now, though Jake had never been told the full scope of the operation. Lisa noticed Jake's reaction and smiled. You didn't think we chose this location randomly, did you? New Eden Colony was always designed as a defensive installation, not just a farming community. Dr. Helen Barnes joined the conversation, no longer maintaining her cover as a simple country doctor. Every resident of this colony is a retired military specialist. We're all here because Terran Command needed a hidden base that could defend this sector against exactly what just happened. Amy Watson nodded agreement. My engineering background made me perfect for designing defensive systems that looked like irrigation equipment. Sam's artillery experience was essential for the missile installations. Pete's sniper skills provided precision elimination capability. Jake began to understand the true scope of what New Eden represented. So this whole colony is a military operation disguised as farming? The farming is real, Lisa explained. We grow actual crops and raise actual livestock. But every piece of equipment, every building placement, every resident was chosen to create the perfect defensive position. We're farmers who happen to be soldiers, not soldiers pretending to be farmers. Sam Miller approached the group, carrying a captured alien officer who was still alive but badly wounded. Zephyrian's blue scales were pale with shock and pain, and his eyes showed the confusion of someone whose entire understanding of reality had been shattered. This one claims to be Admiral Krathvin, Sam announced. Wants to speak with whoever is in command. Lisa looked at the defeated alien admiral with professional interest. I'll handle the interrogation. We need to understand how much the Zephyrian Empire knows about human defensive capabilities. The alien admiral looked up at Lisa with a mixture of pain and bewilderment. When he spoke, his voice was weak but filled with desperate confusion. How? Admiral Krathvin gasped. How did farmers destroy my entire fleet? We scanned this world for months. You showed no military installations, no weapons, no defenses. You were supposed to be helpless civilians. Lisa knelt down beside the wounded alien, her expression almost sympathetic. Admiral, you made a fundamental error in understanding human nature. We don't separate our farmers from our warriors. Every human who grows food is also prepared to fight for it. Jake looked around at his fellow colonists as they continued their cleanup work. These people had spent 3 years living peaceful lives, growing crops and raising families. But when threatened, they had transformed into one of the most effective military units he had ever seen. The deception had been perfect. The aliens had seen exactly what humans wanted them to see. A quiet farming colony with no apparent defenses, inhabited by civilians who posed no threat to anyone. But New Eden Colony had never been about growing crops. It had always been about growing something much more dangerous, a trap that would teach the galaxy an important lesson about underestimating human farmers. The news of New Eden's victory spread across the galaxy faster than the fleeing Zephyrian ships could travel. Within hours, every communication network was buzzing with reports of the impossible battle. A farming colony had destroyed an entire invasion fleet in 9 minutes. The story seemed too crazy to believe, but the evidence was undeniable. Jake Morrison sat on his front porch 3 days after the battle, watching the sunset paint his wheat fields gold. The crops were growing well despite the scorch marks from Alien weapons scattered throughout the farmland. Life on New Eden was returning to its peaceful rhythm, though everyone knew things would never be quite the same. Lisa Campbell walked up the path to Jake's house, carrying a communication tablet that showed message after message from across human space. Her expression was a mixture of satisfaction and amazement as she settled into the chair beside him. The Zephyrian High Council sent another surrender offer, Lisa said, scrolling through the diplomatic communications. Surrender requests in 3 days. They're getting desperate. Jake chuckled and took a sip of his coffee. What did you tell them this time? Same thing as before. We're just farmers who want to be left alone. If they stop attacking human colonies, we'll stop destroying their fleets. The simplicity of the human position was driving the Zephyrian leadership crazy. They had expected complex negotiations, territorial demands, or at least some kind of military posturing. Instead, the humans just wanted to farm in peace and were willing to obliterate anyone who interfered with that goal. Pete Rodriguez joined them on the porch, carrying a bottle of beer and looking more relaxed than Jake had. Seen him since the invasion? The former Marine had spent the last 3 days teaching his teenage son advanced marksmanship, using alien equipment as targets. Got word from my cousin on Kepler Station, Pete said, settling into another chair. 3 different alien species have contacted the Terran Federation asking for formal peace treaties. None of them want to risk finding out what human colonies can really do. Amy Watson appeared from her vegetable gardens, soil on her hands, and satisfaction on her face. Irrigation systems were working perfectly again, though everyone now knew they could be quickly converted back to weapons if needed. The tomatoes are coming along nicely, Amy announced. Should have a good harvest next month, assuming no more alien fleets decide to visit. Dr. Helen Barnes walked over from the medical clinic, where she had been treating the last of the alien prisoners. Most of the captured Zephyrians were recovering well, though they remained deeply confused about what had happened to them. Admiral Krathman asked to speak with Jake again, Helen reported. He's still trying to understand how farming equipment became military weapons. I think the concept breaks his brain. Jake stood up and stretched. The alien admiral had been asking the same questions for 3 days, unable to accept that humans could be both peaceful farmers and deadly warriors. The Zephyrian military mind couldn't grasp the idea of dual-purpose thinking. They walked together to the medical clinic, where Admiral Krathvan was sitting up in bed, his blue scales slowly returning to their normal color as he healed from his injuries. The alien leader looked at Jake with the expression of someone trying to solve an impossible puzzle. Human Jake Morrison, the Admiral said slowly, I have studied your battle records for 72 hours. Your harvester machine cut grain for 3 years, then destroyed 47 of my ships in 9 minutes. How is this possible? Jake pulled up a chair beside the bed. He had grown to like the confused alien admiral who was genuinely trying to understand rather than simply being angry about his defeat. Admiral, the mistake you made was thinking farming and fighting are different things, Jake explained patiently. Humans have always done both. We grow food to feed our families, and we fight anyone who tries to take that food away. But your equipment, Admiral Krathvan protested. Your harvester had hidden weapons. Your irrigation system contained explosives. Your grain silos launched missiles. How did we not detect these modifications? Because they're not modifications, Jake said with a smile. We built dual-purpose machines from the beginning. It's the same hydraulics that power grain cutting can rotate weapon systems. It's the same computers that control irrigation can target enemy positions. We just used farming equipment the way humans have. Always use tools for whatever job needs doing. The alien admiral stared at Jake in bewilderment. Your entire colony was a military base disguised as farms. No, Jake corrected gently. Our entire colony was farms that could become a military base when needed. The difference matters. We really do grow crops and raise livestock. We just also happen to be very good at protecting what we grow. Sam Miller appeared in the doorway, carrying his daily report on the colony's defensive status. The old artillery commander had been monitoring space traffic to ensure no other hostile forces. We're approaching New Eden. All quiet on the scanning front, Sam announced. Nearest alien ships are 3 systems away and moving in the opposite direction. Word is getting around that human farmers aren't easy targets. Lisa Campbell joined them, bringing news from her latest communication with Terran Command. The political effects of New Eden's victory were spreading throughout the galaxy as alien civilizations reconsidered their relationships with humanity. The Zephyrian Empire has officially ended the war, Lisa announced. Complete surrender. Full withdrawal from all human systems and payment of reparations for damages caused during their invasion attempts. Admiral Krathvin looked stunned. The High Council surrendered completely. Your government realized that if human farmers could destroy an invasion fleet in 9 minutes, they didn't want to find out what human professional soldiers could do. Lisa explained. The alien admiral slowly nodded his understanding. We thought humans were weak because you preferred farming to conquest. We did not realize that your farmers were more dangerous than our warriors. Jake stood up and patted the admiral's shoulder gently. That's the thing about humans, Admiral. We don't separate our peaceful activities from our ability to defend ourselves. Every farmer knows how to fight, and every fighter knows how to grow food. It makes us harder to predict. Over the following weeks, New Eden Colony settled back into its normal routine. The crops grew, the livestock grazed, and the residents went about their daily tasks with the same peaceful efficiency they had always shown. But now, the galaxy knew the truth about human. Agricultural communities, other alien civilizations that had been considering attacks on human colonies suddenly lost interest in the idea. The message was clear across the galaxy. Humans might prefer to farm in peace, but they were perfectly capable of harvesting their enemies just as efficiently as they harvested their crops. Jake returned to his wheat fields, driving his harvester. Through the golden grain under the warm afternoon sun, a machine cut cleanly through the stalks, filling its bins with the harvest that would feed families throughout the sector. In the distance, Pete Rodriguez was teaching his son how to adjust a rifle scope while Sam Miller explained artillery calculations to a group of interested teenagers. Amy Watson was showing the younger children how to program irrigation systems. Though everyone understood the lessons had applications beyond watering vegetables new. Eden Colony had become exactly what it was always meant to be, a place where humans could live peaceful lives while remaining ready to defend those lives against anyone foolish enough to threaten them. The galaxy had learned an important lesson about human farmers. They grew many things: food, families, communities, and when necessary, a world of trouble for anyone who tried to take those things away. Jake Morrison smiled as he worked his fields, knowing that his harvest would feed the people he cared about, and his weapons would protect them from anyone who tried to interfere with that simple, fundamental human goal.